Perfecto.
Perfecto, perfecto.
Just bear with us. Yep, here we go.
Yes. Let me just find us. Let me just find us again.
See it.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And here. Okay, okay.
So you might just change it to, have you got gallery view, Nancy?
I have.
Gallery view, you see the three of us?
Yeah. It's not showing this?
It's just showing speaker view or something.
No,
there you go. That's it. That's perfect.
Okay, okay. After all this technology, which is fantastic to have this available, isn't it? To have technology that we can connect with people in different places. So that's fantastic. So thank you, technology. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome once again on another week, another segment of Conversations from Home. And this time we're going to be talking with this amazing person, John Moulang. Welcome, John. We're going to be talking about the topic of words and especially words that heal, and how powerful are the words that we speak, and how can we become a bit more aware of words. And John is a poet, so Christian is going to introduce John.
This is the most pleasurable introduction I'm going to have out of probably many of the conversations of home that we've had this month. Why? So my association with John, we met over 12 months ago, I think, at the Sydney Men's Gathering in Katoomba. Not only is John a poet, which I've subsequently got to know, obviously in the 12 months, but he's also a musician. And I remember at the gathering, the men's, imagine, how many were there, John? About 70 or so men aged between 21 and 76, I think. And John and I just hit it off, being both musicians. And I think I was blessed to have like a father role model available to me, just like I put on a tray for me, and obviously a musician as well, and a man with the biggest heart that I know. And that's where the association started, I guess. And then over the last 12 months, pretty much we meet online on a regular basis. And also, because he's recently launched his book, The Heart of One, which obviously is going to bless us with some of the poetry, but it actually has inspired me to write my own poetry, which I am truly blessed to have started that journey. And to start Conversations from Home, John was one of the first people that I said to Nancy, I'd really love to have John, and just his insights as such a human being, but also his love of poetry and words. So welcome, John. Love to have you here.
Thank you very much, Nancy and Christian. I'd just like to start by thanking you for thinking of me to come on to your sessions, and just to let the world know that you're actually doing this 3 times a week for the whole month, over being a mental health month. So and you're doing that without any sponsorship, or it's just out of your pockets and out of your heart. And I so admire that, and I appreciate it so much on behalf of the world. So honored to be asked. The book, I don't actually want to make it like a promotion of the book, but I am fascinated with words, and they do have a power. For instance, the word passion. If we take the word passion and we pull it apart into its syllables, it actually says pass I on. So passion is a description of me expressing the real and deeper me. And that's like a secret hidden meaning in a way. And there's lots of those. I think I best introduce myself by just reading the foreword from my book, which is an introduction. So I'll just start there, if I may, and then we'll go on to the power. I've explored much of Africa, Asia, and Australia, adventured through hostile lands and situations where views and landscapes took my breath, kissed death more than once in search of myself, found compassion and support from amazing strangers, bravely persisted with dysfunctional unions that also carried me to natural ecstasy and bliss. I have met Kundalini, quivered in the dust of financial terror, heard the voice in the bright light of death, lifted my son into this world, then later had him turn his back on me. I skated and surfed my schooling away, played and sang my way to many stages, befriended the dark parts of my soul, found joy in my liberation and the wisdom out beyond knowing. I have nothing to offer and very willing to share it. All I do is polish my lamp and the moths come. And when they come, they bring polish. I don't polish moths. I shall never retire, as it is a life-threatening condition, and will never have my affairs in order, reaching the end with many unfinished projects.
Wow.
So that's the foreword from the book. And you know, the book is actually 50 years of process. Some of the poems go back to my early 20s, and they just express my untangling of myself and life and the universe and everything. I'll just take a moment to acknowledge my mother, because when I was born, my mother had next to her bed until she died, a copy of the Bible and a copy of Khalil Gibran's The Prophet.
Oh, wow.
And my mother only ever shared the Bible with me very occasionally to express her own confusion about what it was actually saying. But we spent a lot of time with the Prophet, and I think from that toddler age, I just was drawn to set an intention for my life to become a poet, because I felt that there was you know, between toddler and old age, there's some aspect of wisdom to share, which is like somewhere between philosophy and poetry. So just before coming on, we were talking about the power of words. So I thought we would just take the title, Words That Heal. So if I look at the word words, I'm prompted to think of a genius who has passed away. His name is Buckminster Fuller. Now, Buckminster Fuller has been a great influence on my life, and he had a period in his life where he realized that words, and to quote him, words are the most powerful tools that humans have invented, and he decided that he would not speak for 2 years, well, he didn't say 2 years. He said, I'm not going to use words until I learn more about them and how to use them. And he actually invented a lot of words in his silence. One of them is a very everyday word. It's the word synergy. Now that's an abbreviation of synchronized energy. So Buckminster Fuller found there's a metal that's strength is 3x, and the other metal strength is, you melt them together and you get an alloy of 7x. Where did the other 2x's come from? And it's in the synchronization of those two metals that, and you know, that's a principle of universe. So that can happen with people. And a good example of that is when Australia won the America's Cup, a championship team beat a team of champions. You know, the guys on the foredeck of that winning Australian boat weren't even sailors. They were rowers. They had much better precision, and they didn't have any part in deciding whether that was a good idea or not. They just did what they did. They synchronized. And so that's, you know, just in looking at the words. If you look at the word that, it's such a common word, but used in a yogic sense, the ultimate state of a yogi is to realize, not say or think, but to realize, I am that, you are that, and that's that. And so, you know, such a powerful word that we just throw around and use, and don't have time or space to think about. Now, the last word in the three is heal. Now, the word heal comes from the same root word as whole. So healing is basically becoming whole, and wholeness is tied to integrity. Now, a lot of people think integrity is ethics. Integrity, if you look it up in the dictionary, it says state of wholeness. So it's the extent to which I'm healed. So a cup has integrity. If you break its handle off, it loses its integrity. And so words that heal is just about becoming whole. And you know, there's a whole big subject and workshop about integrity and wholeness and healing. But essentially, I can't heal without knowing who and what I am. And so the healing part in this context that this poetry expresses is a constant exploration of who and what I am. And so that's how the you know, the power of those words take any words that just happen to take the three in the title of the subject that you guys chose. And another fascinating word power thing was the First Nations people of Australia were trying to explain to the early settlers who were English speaking a concept beyond humanness, and the best understanding that these English speaking people could understand, they called it dream time. but they really didn't get or understand what they were talking about. And I recently heard a lady called Nidhi Simpson, who's part of the band called the Stiff Gins, talking about that in particular, and she said the new word for Dreamtime is every when, which is just beautiful. I get it straight away, every when. Because in meditation, and I'll just add that I started learning meditation when I was 14. So at 70 now, it's a long time ago. And every time that I've meditated and actually settled in the precision of presence, it's the same presence each time, and that's just impossible to explain. But I get every when
and it's fascinating, isn't it? Because especially when we are when we're trying to connect, and that's why sometimes we I don't know, I'm just thinking about or feeling about the power of love, because sometimes when we're trying to connect, to explain these ideas of what dream time, every time, when, sometimes we don't have as a species the enough vocabulary to explain things, so the concepts might be missed on the way. You know what I mean? So it is always just digging in and connecting to things that sometimes we don't even have words.
Yeah.
So it's how do we keep digging in, and connecting to how do I express this? But it has to come with an understanding. Like you said, the word that. It's not just word. I mean, we throw out words very easily, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't really any idea of what we're talking about sometimes.
Yeah. And a couple of people have said to me, every when, that doesn't make sense. And I said, all right, explain to me the sense of the word everywhere. And they go, well, and they realize that, what the hell is everywhere? And
that's right.
And where is this place called away that we go to and we throw things and, away, I'm going away, which I guess is just anywhere other than here, which is where life is. It's here now. Yeah. So.
I love this conversation because I had a very interesting relationship with words. There was a time in my life that I couldn't use them. I didn't, I will get very blocked. I couldn't use, I don't know, sometimes I couldn't even do a sentence. I went through a long time of not being able to communicate. Then when I started communicating in my 20s, I became very aggressive. So I use words as like a, ¿cómo se dice? Lanza?
Like an archery.
Yeah.
Like
bow and arrow.
And it was amazing because when I will throw words, I will feel it in my gut, the pain that I was causing. It was just wow. And then I started becoming more friends with words and more loving. So there was a transformation in the words. So it's just such a beautiful thing because many of us are able to speak, not everybody, but many of us. And sometimes we don't use this quality in the best way that we can, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, tells us that a very, very small percentage of our communication is the actual words. Something like 55% is tone and the rest is body language. So of that little bit we've got, we've really got to make the most of it. Yeah. So it was really significant for me to discover that that poetry wasn't really about the reader. I'll just take a step back to music. and remind me if I don't come back to this. I was performing at the Woodford Music Festival in Queensland, and I happened to be in the green room with a fellow called Dharma Singh, who's Indian, and we were having a conversation, and he said something that really changed a lot of my reality. He said, in Western music, it's all about the audience. You know, you have an obligation to give to the audience what they want, and it's a responsibility and all that kind of stuff. With Indian music, our music is a worship. It's an expression to the greatness, and if you want to sit and observe and listen, that's up to you. And that really changed the way that I performed. And so that aspect of writing the poetry, originally thinking, who's going to read this? What are they going to judge? You know, is it good enough? All that kind of stuff. It changed significantly when I realized, because somebody asked me, how does it work? And so I had to analyze to be able to answer. So generally I get a thought, and it's a thought that is you know, worth holding on to and considering and contemplating. And so I take that thought down into my heart so that I can feel that thought, or that, you know, family of thoughts. And I feel it, and I feel it, and I feel it. And once I can feel it to the extent that I can express it, I then take it back as best I can to my mind. And then with my, you know, word skill or whatever, learned grammar at school, whatever, I then put it down on paper. And then I pass it to you. It comes into your mind. And if it's any worth, if it's any good, it's going to sink into your heart, and you're going to get a feeling. And you're going to come back, and you're going to have an understanding of what you just felt. And very, very, very seldom is it similar to mine. That's the magic. It, you know, people read into my poems amazing things that I never even considered and thought about. And that is a beautiful thing.
And that's the beauty of it. And that's why, you know, like you were talking about performance, it's not really about performance, it's about the sharing.
Yeah.
When we are sharing, like if I'm sharing, I'm not trying to perform. There's truth in it, and it will connect with your truth if you're open. You know, that's the beauty of all this new way of looking at things now. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. So how about I read a poem about the importance of sharing?
Yes, that we.
So one of my challenges in life has been for the amount of solitude that is conducive to process and healing and self-exploration, all that kind of stuff. And so there's this aspect of blend between solitude and the value that it brings when I connect with someone. And my solitude makes my connection so much better, and vice versa. So this little poem is called So I Am, which sounds very solitude, and then it connects. As I think, so I become. As I speak, so I am. I am the humility of the falling raindrop, the excitement of the raging river. I am the graceful symmetry of the snowflake and the anger of the wild tropical sea. I am connected and conforming as lawn grass. I am bold and solitary as the mighty oak, loose and independent as a jungle vine, loving, fragrant, and as complex as a rose. I am as knowing as the ancient rocks of witness, as insignificant as a beached grain of sand. With wisdom and potential, I am crystal and the diamond under pressure around. I travel free, I am the breeze. I am frenzied in tornado and storm. I am erratic, gusty, surprising, a sailor of life on the winds of my own moods. I am cutting as the brightness of sword steel, complete as the edge of the flywheel, rich as the coins of a merchant, comforting as the lead in the keel. In this changing choice of creation exists a stable and constant contentment, linked to my plural survival endeavors, a friend that I know to be you. Thank you.
Oh, that was beautiful, John. And it just made me think about like what you were talking about, solitude, you know, to be able to create these beautiful words and to share these beautiful words, you have to have maybe no words with others. And sometimes it's that, you know, how do we find that balance, you know, being with others and then being that time for ourselves to create, to sort of share these beautiful words, you know?
Yeah. And so many times in my life, you know, I've not been in solitude, and I'm letting that feeling sink from my mind, the idea, into my heart, so that I can feel it. Yeah. And someone says, "What's wrong?" my least favorite question in life. What's wrong?
John, I was just reflecting when we were coming up with the theme for, well, this year's Sydney Men's Gathering, which we obviously didn't go ahead because of the pandemic. And the theme that we came up with was get lost. Obviously, it was a play with words, but almost perfect in a way, and somehow so aligned with what's happened, not just in previous, but this year in particular, where that very essence of solitude has almost been forced upon us with the feeling of lostness. And how at the same time healing that was. Like we started as a men's circle, or as the content team, we started that journey of what it meant to feel lost. And as you said earlier, just that one word has been interpreted so many ways by many men and many people. And we started that journey of solitude in a way. And how it's manifested this year, ironically, has been amazing. And it's just one word, right? Of lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so not only do I pay attention and explore, I stretch what look like principles to the extreme. So doing that with the concept of lost, I came up with a realization for myself. I'm not trying to sell the idea, but I can't be free unless I'm lost. Because as soon as I'm found, I'm attached to whatever finds me. that's quite a, it's quite a I mean, I've not pursued Zen, but Zen has pursued me. And that's a very Zen kind of thing. You know, to be free, you have to be lost. So that's like a conundrum. And often when I start sessions on teaching people how to do this, how to go in and practice being this self-counselor of bringing out things that are packed in ice down there, waiting for some time to deal with them, and it's a process of looking at it and getting that ice to melt. And it's very interesting that that what melts ice is warmth, heat. And where do we find that? In the early parts of a loving relationship. And these things start melting and poop, poop. And they're right there in the bedroom, at the kitchen table, in the car, coming up. And so that process is it's scientific. It can be taught and learned. So I often say I don't teach, I provoke, because unless the person gets their own momentum, it's just too inefficient. It's too hard. So often I start with that question: in your belief system, were you sent to this life, or did you decide to come? And that's quite a confronting question for a lot of people, because it's it's so fundamental at the basis of our belief system, but we haven't really considered it much, if at all. So part of this process is, before we're born, while we're still in the womb, we are starting to get conditioned. We're starting to hear sounds, tones, conversations, arguments. We start getting indications of what life means and what it's about. And then we get born, and we get taught behaviors and manners and right and wrong and all that kind of thing. And really what we know as basic reality is man-made. And and a big part of healing that stuff that's packed down in ice is to go and get it, knowing that that there's nothing to be ashamed about, there's nothing to be regretful about. Just get it out, because those things undealt with, packed in ice, are what make us sick. And I've been saying for a long time, the greatest force in the universe is that which I tell myself and I believe. And so it's not so much the words that heal, but it's the process of going in and retrieving the words around the wound, and just practicing, getting little ones. So how we've done it in workshop is, get the men to or the women to just relax into a memory around about the age of 3 or 4, and just be there, feel it, look at it, and then come out and write down a sentence from there, starting with I am. So, you know, I'm sitting on the pier looking at the ships come in with my dad. That's all. And doing those kinds of things and practicing. And then what we do is we might do that as first day of school, or you know, finishing first job, first girlfriend, first boyfriend, and just practice that it's okay to go in there and just write it down in the present tense. I am. And then what we do is we've gone and had a look at this, and we've said find all the nouns and add an adjective, and then find all the verbs and add an adverb, so that these things grow and get a bit fleshy. And then we go say take off all the I ams, and you end up with a beautiful poem.
Oh, right.
And Christian's done that. And
yeah, I did it, and
I think it was a lot of the inspiration that you mentioned.
yeah, I found it. It was almost, well, in fact, it was a meditation. I found it very much like a meditation, because it took me to a place of, although it might have taken me to a past moment, bringing it into the present sense was both healing, but also, yeah, it was just, it was a beautiful way to look beyond the words, but obviously it was a way of, and I reflected on what it felt like when that day that my dad bought me my guitar. I reflected on what it felt like having a melted ice cream with my mother in Adelaide on a 40+ degree. And I remember reading this to Nancy, if you remember, Nancy. And it was just took me to those moments growing up, and there was such joy. Yeah, just and they're the moments that I think often we forget, because it can get clouded a lot with maybe some negative experiences that obviously are wounds and whatnot. But yeah, it just took me to a beautiful, warm place.
Yeah, and what's important is that, I mean, I remember when you did that process, that there were some men who fought like hell. You know, I failed English and I got kicked out of English class, and I don't know what a noun is. Tell me what a noun is. And didn't they write beautiful stuff?
That's right.
Because they learned the mechanism. And just like with music, you know, we learn the scales, we learn the chords, and that's not music. It's chords and scales, and through the years of dedication and practice and desire, the music rewarded me and found me, and told me that it's actually, you've got to learn all those things, but the music is hidden. John Moulang, the music of John Moulang is hidden between those notes and scales and chords, and it's the same with meditation. It's you know, the meditation. A lot of people say I'm going to meditate, but they're actually not. They're going to sit quietly and they're going to practice the breath or whatever mechanism they use. That's relaxation, that's contemplation. There's no such thing as guided meditation. Meditation is, you're out, and usually it's fleeting, and there's no words for it. And
or you're in, like deeply, like a dive in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not something that has words, you know, I intend to write a book to try and express it and teach a method to get there. And the book will be called Heaven Before Death. And because it's like so liberating. When I did physically die in my mid-20s in India from being poisoned, you know, I always thought that heaven would be the place where all my questions were answered. Mr. Little Curious. You know, I was so hungry to get all those questions answered. But when I stood on the edge, and you know, back in my body, I was technically dead. There was nothing to ask. You know, it just seems so ridiculous that you'd have a question. So you know, that's worth doing this process. You know, there's lots of processes, but this one is free. You don't have to have a therapist. You're your own facilitator, and just practicing going in, seeing what comes out there, coming out and expressing it, and just like the musician who, you know, when the music finds him, then he can play jazz. He can improvise. He doesn't have to think chords and scales anymore. So because I've been writing it for 50 years, it flows. But you know, someone said, someone's partner picked up the book and said, not much rhyme in here. And I said, yeah, I left rhyme behind a long time ago. In fact, I've left punctuation behind and capitalization behind because it's distracting, I think. So I did write a poem, and I thought, okay, well, I better put some mind into this, but it didn't lose the heart. And so I wrote a poem that you know, the verses are 4 lines, and the first line and the last line rhyme with each other, and the 2 middle lines rhyme with each other. So it's a poem that I actually read at the last Tasmanian men's gathering, and a lot of men shared that it touched them deeply because well, I can't tell you because it gives it away.
Can you read it now? You got it there to read?
I think so. Yeah, it's called The Cave.
Okay.
Walking to the hidden cave, sometimes enthusiastically I run. Terror again, but feels like fun, chained to the gang like a slave. Charming, fighting, seducing, driven by a healthy core, getting closer I even implore, powerful feeling, not reducing. At the entrance, wrestling with doubt, feels like I'm exploding, a need for more offloading, afraid that I might shout. Lying on the threshold, what treasure could be inside? Fear of the ambush starts to subside. The darkness of history stays untold. Crossing into the darkness, the cave lights up my soul, seeing myself as if now whole. Together, integrate, join and harness. Holding the space together, floating in humanness, heaven. Here all our sins are forgiven, some we don't even remember. Staying in the bliss I try, even attempting to turn. My insides continue to tremble and churn. Sensing it too, she starts to cry. So a lot of men read that as the fear of intimacy, the fear of crossing the threshold sexually, and you know, that they've felt a liberation. Geez, you know, someone else, you know, has that awareness of the challenge. of the you know.
And I always say when we do this stuff, or when we do talks, or even when we talk with Christian, some things, I mean, we can understand them with our minds. Like if I was to listen to that beautiful poem and try to understand the words and try to understand the meaning, I will get lost in that. Whereas if I let the words just fall in me and create an emotion, I don't need to understand it with the intellect. You know what I mean? The job is done.
Exactly.
And that's why everything, everything that we do, and this moment that we're going through in humanity, is really helping us to connect more with the heart. And we'll have to let go of the intellect a little bit to understand each other with the heart, because the intellect doesn't speak the same language as the heart.
That's right. That's right. And in time, in time, there's a lot of discussion and consideration in men's work, especially. It's like, get out of your head, man. Get into your heart, man. And it kind of like makes the mind the enemy.
That's right.
And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I remember in my early years of men's work, someone saying to me, get out of your head, get into your heart. And I said, well, this is the way I see it. If I want to jump in the ocean, after I've parked the car, I've got to cross the sand. So just cut me some slack, man. Don't be a heart Nazi on me. Over time, I've come to realize that the mind can actually feel and the heart can think. They've done tests, quantum physics and exploring the brain that can rebuild itself and all that kind of stuff. That with experimenting, getting the heart to react, it actually can react before they actually see the image that they're supposed to express, which is quite astounding. So it's a thinking heart. That's right. And therefore, there's a feeling mind. And there's such a conditioning in us to go, you got to get into your heart, so therefore the mind's the enemy. Or as I've heard in a lot of corporate boardrooms, we can't have women making decisions because they're too emotional.
I guess that was, and it's great that you spoke about that, because I guess, and it's just the thinking mind. You know what I mean? Like going back to the idea of listening with the heart. I mean, sometimes we think that the heart is just this and the mind is here. And the heart, I'm seeing it as a presence. I'm open with my mind, my brain, my heart, receiving the poem. With the thinking mind, I will probably be trying to understand the words or questioning the words. Yeah. So I don't know whether to call it thinking mind, the ego, but it's just that. And I guess that as humans, Western, especially in the Western societies, it's quite new to understand what is to connect with presence, or with the heart, or with the mind that is not just the thinking mind. We're so used to understanding life with a thinking mind only.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to us than that,
Yeah. And just like that poem I read where wanting to do the rhyme in that sort of complex way, I refer to as cleverness. And I'm I'm okay admitting that I have cleverness, but it's not everything. It's
Man,
a
I remember in high school, we'd look at Shakespeare, we'd look at the sonnets, and we'd look at certain structure and the way the words sort of, And what I think is really beautiful is, even just in in poetry or even is it prose style, where it's not as structured, but it has its own rhythm and everything. Everyone can express so unique. And I think we were talking before we came on air that, and we've seen it before when we play meditation music, or even when someone shares in a men's circle and they express whatever they express. And it happens the same here when you shared your poetry. The rhythm, the space between the words, and even when the poem is finished, or like a piece of music or whatever, where you just let that next 5 seconds at the end of whatever's been shared or said, and it just sits there, that in that silence,
hangs.
It's so beautiful. And you just know. I remember when we went in Katoomba, we went and we went up on the rock overlooking the Blue Mountains. And I remember taking I think I took the guitar or a speaker, thinking that I was going to play a song on guitar, but it was so beautiful that the moment that we were looking is we just saw nature. We heard the birds, we heard the wind, we heard the rustling in the trees. It was like, I don't even need the guitar. It's all there. Do you remember? It was such a beautiful moment that it was just the spacelessness. It was, such a beautiful moment.
Yeah. Now with the technology, it's not quite ready for live music, but I could read a song, if you like.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is an expression. So I know exactly when I was probably 28 when I wrote this, and I was thinking to myself, why is it that I can't write when life is good? I seem to only write when I need therapy. and I found it quite easy to write after I broke up from a relationship or whatever. And so this poem, which became a song, it expresses and takes it to a bit of extreme, where for some people this kind of situation is suicidal, even though I wasn't. I just hinted at that possibility. So it's called Lonely Man. Words flow like melting snow from the hand of a lonely man. Nicotine scrawls while the time crawls, and his vision drips smudges from heaven. Spinning magnetic direction while the pages draw dust into death, the roulette of taking off somewhere, a new world won't let him forget. Forgetting the purpose of taking, he gives all of his blood to the poor, yet he knows where he goes is no freedom, so he shows in the pictures of his words. Choosing a solar spiral, he flies up to dream, taking breath, but the wheel keeps dropping him nowhere. A new world won't let him forget. Dropping off into his slumber, in the hand of a searching land, the time ticks the stars from his window, and his years turn his face to the wall. no sleep with no windows, no door, no stars to shine fear on the floor, but the flicker of wax burning gently and the sweetness of incense of her, patchouli. Smiling at nothing on waking from the land of a lonely man. His pleasures are private, not secret. He's looking for something inside. He's so confused in the spinning, so young to be free, so hopelessly lost in his learning of the world that he tried to flee. Words flow like melting snow from the hand of a lonely man. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I like the idea of the idea of melting, and I mean, I just wanted to share about one way that I use words as well, because if we're going to talk about expressing, you know, and how we can use words for to heal as well, like that, well, you're using poetry, and sometimes it's for you to heal, sometimes it's to be grateful, sometimes it's to share. But I was just thinking about, especially when you said something about the ice and melting, and the way I use words sometimes is I write first everything that comes to my mind, just to hear everything that is in my mind, because unless I express it, it's just gonna keep driving me crazy. So I just write it down, and I don't do anything with that. I just break it. I rip it, but I keep writing until I find that it's silence. Like I express everything. And then other words, if I was to write a poem or a song or just write something, it comes from a place that I haven't heard. It's not from my thinking mind. But I do empty my thinking mind before, because sometimes we can get very caught in what our thinking mind says.
Yeah.
And especially because we are in a mental health month, sometimes we believe every single thought we have in our mind, and not every single thought is real, really. So if we can get in touch with a little more depth within ourselves, things that we haven't heard before come up.
That's a very, very good point. For me, you know, in today's reality, we could say, growing up, I probably needed some counseling and stuff going round. And essentially counseling is going and sitting with someone who listens and then getting that round stuff into a logical order to be able to speak it. Helps. And what I found was that writing it does the same thing. And that's what you're saying. And yeah, I guess I also started off by tearing it up and throwing it away. And then on some occasions I thought, maybe I'll keep that to reread it, so that I can, you know, reaffirm the conclusions I was coming to. And then you know, it got to, hey, this is perhaps this is poetic. I'll keep it. And that's why I've got, you know, poems from my early 20s, because I just kept them, or I kept some of them.
It's a snapshot of your life at that point.
Yeah.
If it turns over in a poem, you know, I've been writing my diary, you know, since I'm 15, you know, and I remember that I had a stack of diaries, you know what I mean? And then when I was about 20, and it was writing about, oh, my life is crap and I hate my dad, and it was over and over and over and over, you know what I mean? I had a few books of that. And then I remember one day I was about, I don't know, 27 or something, and I had a fire, a chimney. How do you call them?
A chimney. Yeah.
in the house.
A fireplace.
A fireplace in the house. And I got all my diaries and I said, I can't deal with this anymore. I burned them. And I felt there was such a change in me from that day onwards. And that's why I was saying that those parts I don't want to keep, you know what I mean? Those, you know, those, I need to empty my head. Then after that, I mean, things come up. But yeah, I think sometimes we have to be, I mean, I'm glad that we're talking about this, because words, whether we write them, whether we speak them, whether we sing them, they're very powerful. And they're creating stuff in our brain, you know, and we need to become more aware of that, isn't it?
Yeah. When you say, you know, I hate my life, I hate my dad, kind of stuff. I just want to read this poem because it's about my dad.
All right.
And you know, my dad was affected by the Second World War, and you know, growing up, he just wasn't there, even though he lived in the same small flat. I only really had the first conversation with him after I went to India and died, and you know, came back, and I started you know, getting a different perspective on what challenges he had to face and how I would you know, would have dealt with it. So I'll just tell you in this poem that there's a reference to Dale, which was a boarding school that he threatened me with, which terrified me. So the poem is called Laugh Again. Now that I'm grown, I have learnt to laugh again. Knocked out for pain, the forceps strain wasn't very funny. Couldn't they see that laughing near me would shut my heart to get me thinking a part of me was missing? Now that I'm grown, I've learnt to cry again. So wanting to be a tough big boy, I burnt my grief to rage. From 10 to 43 was dry. Something new, that I could die staying locked inside the tents, locked inside and tense. Weak men waved their fingers, strong men showed my sadness, loss of so much and plenty. Just feel and let it go. Now that I'm grown, I've learnt to tremble again. Fear of the madness in the world, afraid to be so wrong. The rabid dog snaps at my heels when debt and threat get close, and loved ones think that I can be everything but human. A time will come when I cannot bend. Will I meet his spirit as a friend? Now that I'm grown, I have learned to shout again. My father stole my anger when he threatened me with Dale. My meltdown stopped along with the lot to be a zombie hiding in his home, kept away from the judging gaze, ducked behind the skirt. Poor bastard, survivor of the bombs. Now that I am grown, I have learned to love again, to understand and forgive. Dad came good as grandpa when I had long gone fled. I've seen that to pack and run, I'll still always be Bob's son. So I hope it's better with your dad.
Oh, no. This is look, I'm 54 and I've done a lot of healing and
Forgiving.
Yeah. I mean, I realized, you know, when not having healed that relationship with my dad, not having healed that relationship with my mom, it was actually affecting me in all my life, you know, in so many ways. And we, as we always talk, it's not about justifying anyone's behavior, but freeing ourselves and understanding, you know what I mean? This is a new time. This is a new era for all of us, isn't it? To be more understanding, more compassionate, and like I always say, we're victims of victims and victims of victims. But I mean, someone has to heal, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and if I want to die miserable, keep carrying revenge.
That's right. That's right.
It's the most toxic thing a human can carry, is desire for revenge. And there's a lot of it about.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. And that's why we're so I don't know, so eager to keep doing this sort of thing, to keep meeting beautiful people like you, to keep hearing us when we talk to you, to keep hearing you, and keep healing together. You know, we need to make that step, all of us, whether we use words, whether we use whatever we use, to keep healing and to choose healing, really.
Yeah, being mirrors to each other.
John, I'm fascinated with a share, if I can refer to the book.
Yeah.
And wanted to refer something you said the other day in the, if I may, in the men's circle, that the book, it's called The Heart of One, and it says poetry for men and their loved ones. You made reference to the fact that the people that buy the books, maybe you can share that for 2 secs, because I think it's really interesting in the context of the men's work that we're doing.
Yeah, thanks. Great thing. I've got a prompt to mention that, and I haven't yet. Want to acknowledge the significant part that women play in men's work. You know, there's so much support and understanding for men to do whatever they can do to feel better and be better men, and to you know, unload and unpack some of those burdens of being a man. And so I've just noticed over many years of men's gatherings and the work that at least 50% of the men who show up have been told, encouraged, supported by their partners to do the work. You know, it's a thing with men. I remember when we had a health and well-being centre, men used to come for treatment with, you know, one of the practitioners, or and they go, "Wow, that was just amazing," you know, just da 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 da, and if they were just left, they wouldn't book again. It's just something in men that they don't give that kind of thing to themselves. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we found that we had to trick them and say, now it'd be really good to have a follow-up in about 3 weeks, and you need to book it now, because, you know, when 3 weeks comes, we won't have a space, and it end up being 5 weeks, and you'll undo a bit of what you've got, and they go, "Oh yeah, okay." Or so many men, their PAs would handle their bookings for them, and I know this. I feel it myself. You know, the resistance that oh yeah, I don't need that, you know, or just don't think about it. So you know, we just found that a lot of those bookings were made by partners, and it's the same dynamic with men showing up at gatherings. It's there's a very strong supportive drive from partners to make a contribution, and the same is happening with the books, because I knew that, and being a bit entrepreneurial. you know, I chose the title and that subtitle because I knew that women would buy the book for men. And
or for themselves,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Well, they definitely read it, and you know, the feedback I've had from women has been, you know, overwhelmingly touching.
And I think it's interesting, John, you talk about, and we reflect back on the gathering, and not just any men's well, actually, probably most men's gatherings, what you say in the event description is also critical to some degree, because of the fact that you could potentially scare someone away if it says something that potentially takes them to a place of, I don't know, spirituality or something, or meditation, those sort of words that possibly could create resistance. But how much do you not say that actually encourages people versus how much you could oversay?
Yeah. And you know, the preconceived notions of a lot of men that you know, men's gatherings are for people who are in trouble, or they for people who, you know, have mental illness, or it's just I think we demonstrated last Monday night the cross section of men who show up to you know, and I got persuaded to get involved by tickling my ego that I had a lot to offer. So, you know, I showed up to give, and I soon got that it's a very powerful exchange of giving and receiving.
I think it's, look, at the moment, I think it's great time. I think people, either men and women, we are stepping up a little bit more, and that's the wish, you know. If we continue our ways, if we continue not taking responsibility to heal, I always say this, I mean, we don't know how long we're going to be on earth, really, humanity, because I think we're sort of up to that level, you know, that we're creating a lot of distraction.
Touch and go. It's touch and go.
I mean, really, it's not now at the moment. It's not, oh well, I'm, you know, I want to heal. No, we have a responsibility to heal, to look what we are carrying inside, because what we're carrying inside is what we're giving out. And we got enough, really, we got enough anger, we got enough resentment in this world. So we need to tune in and get rid of that, whatever we're carrying, and tune into some love and start giving some love, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman. And I know that we always say that a lot of women, and yeah, there's a lot of women that go to groups, and not sure whether everybody's ready to really heal deep inside and really look at the shadow. I don't know whether that's a gender thing, you know, because if we look at examples in leaders at the moment of consciousness, many are men, you know, many leaders are men. So I'm not sure whether it's a gender thing, because the job needed at the moment is really deeper, you know. And the question for all of us is, are we ready, whether you're a man or a woman, to really go a bit deeper, heal, and bring and get in touch with that diamond within, you know, and share the light, you know?
Yeah. So if I walk into a dark room and I turn on the light, the darkness hasn't gone. I just can't see it. It stays there. And you know, I think one of the challenges of humanity, the first one I mentioned, the great hypnosis of the madness. It's total madness.
Yeah.
And we've got to live with it, but it's important to keep remembering it's madness. the other thing, what were you just mentioning before, Nancy?
About looking within and healing and
Shadow.
Look, but I mean, you can live. I lived many decades just in my shadow.
Yeah.
And I was in pain, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was all there was for me.
Yeah.
And then when I started really taking, I thought, and look, I know that we usually take healing when we have an illness or when we're getting divorced or when someone died. Hopefully we start taking healing earlier, rather than waiting until that crisis.
Yeah.
But once I clear, I mean, shadow, we're always going to have shadow. I mean, I can see my shadow at the moment, in this reflection. But there's a bit more light, there's a bit more peace within.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying was that madness in hypnosis to acknowledge it and all that kind of stuff. The second biggest step in the journey is acknowledging shadow, meeting it, recognizing why it's there and what its job is, befriending it, embracing it, loving and honoring it. All those aspects of liar, killer, name dropper, whatever all those shadow personalities, they all have a purpose. So it's about survival, and it's very interesting that it's much easier to survive the wild and the wilderness than it is humanity's right and wrong and laws, good and bad. That's the dangerous thing. So it's a constant constant untangling and untying the knots of this fish fork before that spoon, and it's just so much facade and distraction.
That's right. That's why with you presenting the writing, John, is and people listening, it's not about, I mean, we don't need to be anything or nothing to be able to write. It's just writing as it comes, writing my feelings, and from that, I once I was writing that, and remember, Christian, we did that song, Deja de Sentir. I mean, you just start writing. I didn't know that I could write a song, and then my writing turned it into a song. I mean, it doesn't matter, really. It wasn't my intention. It just happened. But just writing, hearing ourselves, and words are such a beautiful thing to be able to hear myself,
Yeah, and just like the scales and the chords, you just write and write and write and write and write and write, and through your dedication and practice and passion and desire, the poetry will find you.
And the absence of the words, because I think that's a really important thing. The absence of the words.
The silence.
Are words themselves.
Yeah.
And look, I admit in my relationship with Nancy that I do disconnect at different times. And that in itself, as I said, the absence of the words is just as powerful or disempowering, depending on how you look at it. And that's that shadow. And it's really interesting that we talked about the shadow, because a bit like when you said earlier in the piece that the healing comes from the word wholeness, and the fact that our shadow is part of our wholeness. And so reflecting on our shadow and knowing that it needs to walk alongside us, like you've often expressed before, John, that the light and the shadow, the light and the darkness is our wholeness. And we go in life trying to resist so much of what we don't like about each other, or we don't like about one another, or that, for that matter, ourselves, that we won't be in harmony or at peace with ourselves ever unless we become whole.
And it's important, that's brilliant. And it's important to recognize what isn't wholeness. My education is not wholeness. My religion is not wholeness. My philosophy is not wholeness.
My beliefs.
Say again?
My beliefs.
Yeah, it's all part of the madness.
Mm.
And so, you know, it's a very, very big ask and an impossible task to ask someone to say, well, just chuck that all away.
Mm.
So you know, how I work with it is, so just put as much of it that you can just on the side of the road, and you can pick it up on the way back. Mm. And you know, time after time after time, they pick up less each time until they're light enough to fly.
That's beautiful. Just unpacking, you know.
Yeah, you're not. If you're headed for heaven, you don't need any of that stuff.
No, definitely not. We can leave it all here. We better enjoy life without it. You know, why wait until that day that we're going to another dimension to get rid of it? Let's get rid of it now and have some fun. You know, what is this life for if we're not going to have some fun, some joy, feel love and share? I mean, really, you know.
Totally. As humans, we can only experience life through our senses.
Mm.
So life is a sensual experience. Let's have some fun, as you say.
Why not?
Yeah.
Oh, John, it's been a pleasure. Honestly, it's been a pleasure beyond words on it, really beyond words, because it's just a state of being in your energy and hearing you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Christian, for seeing some value in having me on here. So I appreciate it. And I'll just finish off by saying I've sent a second book to the publisher in Brazil. That's my dear friend Jared, and it's called Dream, Wake, Listen, See. And I like it so much more than The Heart of One. So it's something to look forward to.
Where can people get your book, John? Because that's the idea. Because once they hear you, can they get in contact with you? Can they get you the book from you? How can?
Yeah. So Christian put on the post John Moulang Poet .com or whatever, www.johnmoulangpoet.com, and the book is available on Amazon. And if you're in and around Sydney or even anywhere in Australia, and you've got philosophical challenges with Amazon, just get in touch, and I'll post one to you. People have been ordering them in lots of 5, which is fantastic. They want to give them away for presents.
Well, now for Christmas, you know, it's such a beautiful, beautiful, inspiring present to give. So we encourage people for Christmas. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so that's where to get the book, Amazon, or contact me. And if you want a phone number and it's not on the post, just get it via you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. I've had a great time with you guys, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you.
Will do. And just for those that are online and listening live, we've also got on Wednesday, we've got another beautiful conversation from home. We're going to have our dear friend Maitreya and Sada, who are going to do a lift activation, which is their beautiful sound healers. So yeah, it's going to be a sound therapy healing lift activation. It's just going to be awesome. So yeah, stay tuned for that on Wednesday. But yes, John, again, a pleasure as always. love the opportunity to see you again in person. But just this has been a beautiful experience once again. And I feel really blessed, to be honest, to have not just someone like yourself, but a lot of the men that I do a lot of work with in the men's groups, for Nancy to have met you guys, and obviously got to know you a bit more intimately even in this conversation. And I think that's beautiful, because I think it's really important that we continue to I don't know, hold the beacon of love for not just for women to see that there are positive role models out there, but also for many men to be able to draw upon those experiences and those role models in society. And I think that's what's beautiful as well.
Yeah, and post-COVID, Nancy, we'll have a samba.
Definitely. Thank you, John. Thank you. And yes, have a beautiful night. Have a beautiful week. And you said, Christian, Wednesday we have healing, but we started the vibration of healing with words tonight, and we'll go on Wednesday. So thank you, John. Thank you very much. Many blessings. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for showing up, and being part of this healing journey for all. Okay, good night.